This is part 1 of our lesson on equation of a transformed function. So our instruction here says determine the equation of each of the following functions. So I'm going to read through part A. It says an exponential function with a base of 9 that has a horizontal asymptote at y equals -4 and that has been horizontally stretched by 12. So when I read through this, things that seem important to me are the fact that it's exponential and that the base of that exponential is 9. That means it's going to be 9 to the power of something. It has a horizontal asymptote at y equals -4, and it's been horizontally stretched by 12. So when I'm doing one of these questions, I like to start by writing down what the base equation looks like. So it is exponential, and the base is 9. So I'm going to say that this function would be y equals, or f of x equals, or because this is part A, I might call it a of x equals. So I'm going to say a of x equals, and then the standard form for a transformation equation of an exponential function has a times, so I'm going to do a bracket to show the times. The base here is 9, so 9 to the power of, and then this is where the bracket comes in. So I have b times x plus h. I'm going to close off that big bracket, and then plus k. So when I read through the information, I'm going to try to decide for each thing whether it's talking about a, b, h, or k, and what that value would be. So it does say that it has a horizontal asymptote at y equals -4. So if I think about a horizontal asymptote, there's a little xy axis. -4 would be down here. And then I'm not sure whether the graph is above or below or what it looks like, but it might look a little something like that. Now, if I'm moving this asymptote, moving it left and right doesn't actually change anything. It's only moving it up and down that would change it. So when it talks about the asymptote, it's really talking about our k value, the number that moves us up and down. So if it's at -4, that means my graph has gone down 4. So my k would be -4. Okay. The other piece of information is that it has been horizontally stretched by 12. So horizontal stretches, that would be B. Stretches, compressions, and reflections that are horizontal is what B does. And it's being stretched by 12. So inside the bracket, things aren't always what you would think they would be. So this isn't just going to be a 12. It will be a 1/12. Now, it doesn't mention anything about A. It doesn't mention anything about H. So A would be vertical stretches, compressions, and reflections, and H would be whether it has moved left or right. And it doesn't mention anything about either of those. So I will always assume if it doesn't give me anything for the left and right, I'm going to assume it didn't go left or right. So that's just a 0. And if it doesn't mention anything about vertical stretches or compressions, I would just assume that my A value is 1. So not a 0, because if I'm multiplying by 0, the whole thing gets wiped out. So just a 1 there. So when I go to write my equation, there are 2 ways I can do it. I could try subbing in all 4 of these numbers. So I could say A of x equals 1 times 9 to the power of 1/12, x plus 0, and then -4. I just subbed in A, B, H, and K where their letters were. But we wouldn't normally write in the 1. The 1s are quite shy. They like to hide. And I usually wouldn't write in the 0. So I would probably instead write that A of x is just 9 to the power of 1/12 times x minus 4. All right, and that's how we would do the equation of our exponential function. I think we'll do part B, and then we'll probably start a next video. So our next question says, a logarithmic function with a base of e that has a vertical asymptote at x equals 7 and has been horizontally reflected and moved down 3. So this time I see that it is logarithmic. That's important. The base is e. It's got a vertical asymptote at x equals 7, and it's been horizontally reflected and then moved down 3. Okay, so this is a log function this time. So I'm going to start by writing out what the basic equation would look like. So since this is b, I'm going to call this b of x. So I'm going to say b of x would equal, and then it's very similar to this, except instead of an exponent with a base of 9, we have a log base 9. So I have a times log. Now this isn't base 9, this is base e. So log base e of b times x plus h plus k. Now, if you want to put a bracket between the a and the log, and then after the end of that bracket, you can, but it's not really necessary. So when I read through it, it says that it has a vertical asymptote at x equals 7. So if I think about vertical asymptotes, it's going to be a vertical line like that. Oops. And then the logarithmic function, I'm not really sure what side it's on. I'm just kind of drawing myself a rough picture. What would move that vertical asymptote? Well, moving it up and down wouldn't actually change its position, but moving it side to side would. Which of these numbers moves it side to side? That would be my h value. So if this is at 7, it has gone to the right 7, which means my h value would actually be -7. Okay, it also says it's been horizontally reflected. Horizontal stretches, compressions, and reflections are B, and it doesn't mention anything about a stretch or a compression, so I'm just going to assume that it's just negative because it's been reflected, but I can't just write negative, so I'm going to make it -1. All right, it's also going down 3. That would be my k value. So that would be -3. Now, once again, it doesn't say anything about vertical stretches, compressions, or reflections. So I'm just going to assume that that a value is 1 as a default. So my equation here would be that b of x is, so option number 1, we use all the numbers. So we would say 1 times log base e. Is there another way to write log base e? We can actually write that as ln if we want to. So that's log base e of -1, that's my b value, times x plus h. So that's going to be x minus 7, and then plus k, or in this case, -3. Now, if I were writing this out, I probably would not write that 1. So I would maybe say b of x equals just log base e, which is also known as ln, right? So it's ln of negative. Now, if you want to put the 1, you can actually just write a negative, and then x minus 7 minus 3. They both mean the exact same thing. They are both equally correct. It's up to you which format you would like to use. All right, I will see you in the next video to do parts C and D.